to save you, Mother. I won't kill you, feel it.
First of all, congratulations on the film. I know that this was a long-term passion project of yours, so I would imagine that you were careful in your decision to make your first Viking movie. What was it about Robert Eggers that you knew he'd be the perfect partner?
We met about 5-6 years ago, and I had just seen his first feature, The Witch. And it was a combination of that, having seen that, and I was incredibly impressed by the world he was able to create on a very limited budget, how rich and immersive it felt, and how authentic everything felt. And Robert's passion for Norse mythology. When we met, he had just gotten back from Iceland and had, just like myself, fallen in love with the culture and the people. And again, that was kind of the starting point for what ultimately became the Northman. We teamed up with the ambition of trying to make a big, epic Viking adventure, but base it on the old Icelandic sagas. So something that felt historically accurate and would capture the essence of those old sagas, the harsh climate, nature, the harsh people, and the very laconic, dry language to try to capture that was the goal.
Yeah, and another thing that you guys sort of brilliantly captured, I think, is the brutality of that time period, both between what the world gave folks at that time and what they gave each other. I know that made the shoot sort of very difficult, but you've done like a lot of, I would say, challenging shoots. How did this one compare to, like, you know, what you had to do for, say, like Tarzan or some of the other stuff?
You couldn't cheat anything. And cheating is quite lovely when you make movies, because on most other big action movies, you got plenty of coverage, plenty of cameras going simultaneously, and you can divide it up into smaller sections and focus on one part of a fight scene and then move on to the next. Robert shoots with one camera on film, and just one long continuous shot, one take, the whole thing. So you can't really chop it up into bits and pieces. You have to do the whole thing and meticulously plan it, because if one detail isn't perfect, you have to go back to the very beginning and start the raid or the big fight again from the beginning. So the key to making that work was to really plan it meticulously, and to months before the shoot, work with the stunt team and the camera team and figure out the choreography of it, how we would move, and the camera's moving simultaneously. So we had to find that relationship and make sure that worked throughout the whole sequence. And that was challenging, but also exciting, because again, it's a way I was very unfamiliar of working like this. So I tried to embrace it and really see it, take that on head first. And if it any time felt frustrating, what kept me going was the idea that hopefully when people watch this, it will feel immersive and you'll really feel like you're in there with the characters, and that it's not chopped up into like a music video with a zillion cuts. Like you're just staying there with the characters throughout this, in the midst of this chaos. So that's kind of what got me through those days and nights.
Well, mission accomplished. Just go ahead and say that, because I was on Robert. I very much felt like I was in like my Valhalla video game that I played for Assassin's Creed. Like it's very much that.
Thank you.
That you referenced is very much that. And then like also I think a deep commitment to the authenticity. So I know Robert talks about being a filmmaker who's always learning from his last project. And it seems like maybe you learned a new style with the way maybe he shoots, but then he said that you were like the oracle for Viking culture. So talk a little bit about sort of, your lifelong passion about immersing yourself in the history of this culture.
The very ambitious idea, I don't know if it was hubris, but I'd never seen a big epic Viking movie that felt historically accurate and that took its time and the people of its time seriously. And I don't criticize projects that take a tremendous amount of creative freedom. I think that's wonderful. And I think art is all about borrowing and stealing and reinterpreting history. And maybe there is a desire to see something where the creative amount of freedom is very limited, where it does really feel like you're not watching something through the eyes of our current moment, but rather you're being transported back in time and to really try to capture the essence of what life was like up in the cold north 1,000 years ago. So again, that was the very ambitious goal. I don't know if he succeeded, but going into it, that's kind of what we set out to do. And again, I can't imagine a better filmmaker for that type of movie than Robert Eggers, because again, he is all about authenticity and historical accuracy and really taking the audience on a journey back in time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, he's been that way since his first film.
Yeah.
And he brought a little bit of that film, that what connected you two together, to this one by bringing back Anya Taylor-Joy. And I think folks have already seen it just from the previews. Obviously, both of you guys' resume coming into this speaks volumes, but what was it like working together? And knowing that how much of a two-hander this really is. It is the Northman, but as folks watch the film, she is just as integral in that.
Yeah. Anya is obviously an incredible actor, but also pure joy to be around, and such a team player. And always there were some big action set pieces where Anya was just basically deep in the background, where she wasn't in the midst of the fighting. And we would shoot in very remote locations, and it was cold and wet. And she's an incredible team player and always there pushing to make it as good as possible. Our relationship in the movie, we talked a lot about in prep. There's not a lot of screen time in the beginning, like the first part of the movie between Amleth and Olga. But like you said, her character is such an integral part to the story. And then eventually it becomes, you see that on screen as well. But it was important to early on, even though they don't have that many scenes at the beginning together, to really feel that this is his fate, this is destiny, and that they are connected together. So we worked a lot and talked a lot about it and trying to figure out a way to shape those scenes so that it feels electric when they're on together. They need each other on that journey. So that was important to try to capture.
Save you, mother.
I will save you, mother.
I won't kill you if you let me.
Thanks again for this film. Honestly, I got to see it a bit early and it's incredible. It also reunites you with Anya Taylor-Joy. So I just have to ask you, what was it like coming back to this one from your first film to now? I feel so much has happened, but then coming back to a story with her in it.
I mean, it's a pleasure to work with Anya. She's such a fantastic actress and like generous collaborator. Also, it's we've both improved since we worked together, and I could go on all day about her performance and her skill, but the other thing is she's so professional. I guess, like, who cares? But, she's playing this enslaved woman. She's barefoot, like wearing a potato sack, and she's like conducting herself and becomes someone who is, an inspiration for all of the background characters who are, in the same position and excited to be there. It's a good thing to have. It's a really good thing to have on set.
I mean, that's so great. It's like that whole, number one on number two on the call sheet mentality. It does set the tone. Yeah. I do have to say, I hope you weren't setting the tone of shading the witch on set, because I feel like as a huge fan of that movie, I may need to defend it to you because you've been so harsh about it. How is that different? Like, just your opinion of the film? Because, we still love it.
Let me tell you, I am glad that people like it because I'm here. It changed my entire life. I'm super proud of the movie, knowing all the challenges that I went through and my experience level. Like, I'm proud of it, but I just, you can understand that, it was my first movie. I don't have, I still am learning, I'm still learning, thank goodness, on how to make films. I'm still learning my craft, thank goodness. But, I just couldn't get what I wanted on screen. That was what I couldn't get my imagination on screen. That's it, So that's frustrating. And it's good. It's a good thing. Because that makes me reach and work harder on the next one, If I was fulfilled, I should just retire.
Ooh, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. You're also 3 for 3 on your certified fresh, and we want to keep close to be certified fresh, so we want to keep your streak going. You and Ryan Coogler are on a similar path as far as out of the gate success. One thing I think folks are going to be so surprised with this one is the action in it. And I just have to talk about the Berserker scene. I feel like it was my game Vikings Valhalla come to life, and we could really just see him as a playable character. Talk about setting up that day. And it took 30 takes, is that correct?
I don't know, but it took 4 days, and it was. I mean, look, it was really challenging, but the thing is, like, there were some kind of simpler days that in some ways were harder because this there was so much planning that went into this. So like all of our T's were crossed and our I's were dotted because we knew it was the hardest thing to do. Look, with all like hundreds of extras and like all these stuntmen and horses and cows and chickens and pigs and kids and arrows and axes and mud. You know, it was difficult, but it was also fun. But but then you get like addicted to like white knuckling the monitor with all these long takes. I mean, like everyone wants to talk about the Berserker raid, but like nearly everything is one long take. The Berserker raid is 2 shots, but the underground warrior, like the mound dweller, the undead guy fight, like that's 2 shots as well. You know what I mean? So it was a hard movie to make.
I mean, you just tortured yourself on every chance you got. I mean, I get it. I'm noticing a trend here, sir. You don't make it easy on yourself.
It's nothing. There's very few things that are easy that are worth it.
That's very well said. I mean, it goes back to like even the lighthouse, like the period imagery that you use to sort of bring into the film. I know that authenticity was huge as far as this film, and obviously having one of the most identifiable Icelandic families at the center of it, and so many people from Iceland and that sort of Nordic area involved in it. Talk about Alex and just the commitment to authenticity that I think both of you put at the front of your mind with this project.
Well, unlike me, Alex has been interested in Vikings his whole life, and he, like this Viking movie was just born from an extreme passion from Alex, and he demanded absolute perfection in his performance, and he delivered it, frankly. But we also had the great pleasure of working with the finest historians and archaeologists in the field to make like this, historically accurate Viking movie, which was frankly cool and fun.
I love that. And honestly, yeah, cool is the best way to put it. Like, again, the video game is the compliment. It just feels like something that you want to get involved in and something that you literally would love to see play out because it feels that real and that like visceral. I'm also, though, noticing a bit of a trend with your films, too, about this like cultism and religions and sort of mysticism and all of these sort of like the things that people find solace in. And then like all of that is wrapped up in a lot of birds. So I'm just curious, is that like an area you've always been drawn to? And is there other areas of that are similar to that you want to take on, like, I don't know, Santeria, something else along those lines, voodoo, you never know.
The answer simply is like, yeah. but also, I mean, you mentioned voodoo. Like, it was interesting because we have like these berserker warriors transform in their minds into sort of werewolves and werebears on the battlefield. And, me and the experts decided to interpret this as like a shamanic war dance that would get us there. And we have like a few images in archaeology of what we think are Germanic spear dances from slightly before the Viking Age. So then we're looking at things like voodoo trance and like shamanic stuff from Asia and like African war dances and Polynesian war dances and Japanese Buto, and how do we like use all these things with these like few images that we think are spear dances to then try to like, articulate that and say like, this is how they got there. I don't know.